Greetings, clanmates. I'm Nightheart, and in honor of Pride Month, I'm here to talk about one of my favorite warriors' headcanons, asexual Bluestar. So before I address the questions I'm sure you have, let me get some content warnings out of the way. First off, big spoilers for Bluestar's prophecy and the Prophecies Begin arc. I'll mostly be focusing on the events of Bluestar's prophecy, but some of that information is a reveal in the Prophecies Begin. So if you're watching this channel and somehow you don't know what happens in the inaugural arc of the Warrior Cats series, you may want to wait on this one. Besides spoilers, I'm going to be tastefully talking about sexual relationships, including a consensual sexual relationship involving an asexual character. I won't get into anything remotely explicit, but if any of that bothers you, you should probably skip this one. That said, let's get to it. Now, before I get crazy talking about my personal headcanons, let's get the canon straight. Bluestar looms large in the collective consciousness of the fandom. She was the leader of ThunderClan throughout most of the first series, Firestar's mentor, and a major center point of intrigue, scandal, and drama throughout the Prophecies Begin. She was ambitious from the moment she was born, with one of her literal first thoughts being, "I'm going to be a warrior." Seriously, she was like 2 days old. She decides she's going to be leader while she's still an apprentice, and pursues this goal relentlessly throughout her life. Her biggest obstacle is Thistleclaw, an equally ambitious and even more ruthless warrior who Bluefur is certain will lead her clan to destruction. Bluefur's life was also marked by hardship and isolation. She lost her mother when she was an apprentice and her sister when she was a young warrior, both of which sent her into a spiral of depression and left her increasingly cut off from the rest of her clanmates. Her father had little interest in her and her sister, and she had few close friends to speak of. But then she met Oakhart. A strong, handsome, and ambitious RiverClan Tom in line to become RiverClan's next deputy, Oakhart was everything Bluefur aspired to be herself. They shared a few brief interactions at the border and during gatherings, experienced a growing mutual attraction, and agreed to meet at Four Trees under the cover of night. There they climbed a tree together, took a nap, and apparently did some other stuff the book doesn't even see fit to hint at. Because a couple weeks later, poof, Bluefur is pregnant. Seriously, I went into this book knowing they have kids together, and I was expecting, like, another rendezvous scene. That's how platonic the Four Trees meetup sounded. At first, Bluefur is determined to raise the kids herself, keeping their scandalous half-clan origins a secret. But when she finds out that Sunstar is planning to name a new deputy soon, she realizes she must choose between her kits and her ambitions. And if she doesn't take the deputy position, Thistleclaw will. She brings the kits to Oakhart, losing one to the cold in the process, then returns to ThunderClan to lie about the fate of her kits and claim her title as deputy. So, what does asexuality have to do with any of this? The reason I personally read this headcanon into the text is less because of the events that happen and more because of Bluefur's reaction to them. And to properly set the stage for a deep dive into Bluefur's psyche, I want to talk about what asexuality is first. Asexuality is frequently misunderstood, even within LGBTQIA+ circles. The most simple definition is someone who experiences little or no sexual attraction. The opposite of asexuality is allosexuality, which means you regularly experience sexual attraction. Allosexuality is what most people would consider normal, but in actuality, everyone experiences sexual attraction differently, and asexuality is no less normal than allosexuality. So these definitions bring up another question. What is sexual attraction? Put simply, it's when you find someone sexually appealing and feel a desire to have sex with them. This probably isn't a huge revelation, but it makes more sense if you're aware that sexual attraction isn't the only form of attraction. Although this distinction is rarely made in everyday life, separating out the types of attraction can be immensely helpful in putting a name to vague feelings, especially if you think you might be somewhere on the asexual spectrum. The other forms of attraction are 1. Romantic attraction, finding someone romantically appealing and wanting to have a romantic relationship with them. 2. Aesthetic attraction, enjoying how someone looks. 3. Sensual or physical attraction, wanting to touch, hold, or cuddle someone. 4. Platonic attraction, wanting to be friends with someone. And 5. Emotional attraction, wanting an emotional connection with someone. Notice that some of these are typically lumped together with sexual attraction in popular culture, particularly romantic, aesthetic, and sensual attraction. Although the forms of attraction frequently overlap, this doesn't mean they always must occur hand in hand. Everyone's experience is different. For example, I experience much stronger romantic, aesthetic, and sensual attraction than sexual attraction. I usually prefer cuddling and cute dates with my girlfriend, and don't always feel up to anything more. And that's fine. Fortunately, my girlfriend and I are pretty similar in this regard, but the real reason our relationship is so happy and successful is because we constantly communicate about what we're feeling. Another misconception I've heard a lot is that asexuals can't have a happy relationship with an allosexual, and that's simply not true. As long as the allosexual member of the relationship is understanding and willing to compromise, a relationship like this can be just as happy and fulfilling as a relationship between two allosexuals. Asexuality is also a spectrum, ranging from people who are sex repulsed to people who just don't experience sexual attraction as often as the average person. Many people also include demisexuality under the asexual umbrella, which means that you only feel sexual attraction towards someone after forming a deep emotional connection to them. So, some asexuals hate sex and think it's disgusting, others simply don't care about sex, and others enjoy sex, but only at certain times, with certain people, and/or for reasons other than sexual attraction. All of these feelings are valid forms of asexuality. Now, before we go back to Bluestar, let me stay on my soapbox for a little longer so I can clear up a couple more common misconceptions. First, asexuality is not a choice like celibacy or abstinence. Asexuals are born this way, just like gay, Asexuals are born this way, just like gay, bi, pan, and trans people. They don't resist the temptation to have sex, they just don't want it in the first place. And second, it's not a mental illness. Like being gay or preferring chocolate-flavored ice cream to vanilla, it's just a matter of personal taste. Asexuality is just as normal and healthy as allosexuality. Whew, okay, so now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about everyone's favorite blue gal. So the reason I read Bluestar as ace is that throughout Bluestar's prophecy, she expresses a very clear and strong distaste for sexual relationships. From childhood well into adulthood, she wants absolutely nothing to do with Toms or Kits. Or she-cats, for that matter, not that Harper Sell More Books Collins would let us go there. Just look at how she reacts when she finds out Thrushpelt has a crush on her. Me? The thought shocked Bluefur. Thrushpelt was just a denmate, and she wasn't going to end up like Snowfur, stuck in the nursery with a bunch of mewling kits clambering over her. She was going to be the best warrior ThunderClan had ever seen. Better than Thistleclaw. Good enough to be leader one day. Rosetail rolled her eyes. Hadn't you noticed him watching you? No! Bluefur snapped with such ferocity that Rosetail took a step back. Moments like this make it abundantly clear where Bluefur's priorities lie, and it's never been with a partner. She's dedicated to her goals, but it's not just that she's ambitious. From the way she reacts to the suggestion of mating with Thrushpelt, we can see that the very concept of having a mate has never crossed her mind. It's not something she's regretfully set aside for the sake of her ambitions, it's just something she's never wanted in the first place. The few glaring exceptions to this mindset are The Gathering, where Bluefur ogled Oakheart, and Bluefur and Oakheart's secret meeting, two of the only times Bluefur actually seemed like maybe she was sexually attracted to someone. But don't worry, dear clanmates, I have a headcanon for this as well. In one term, compulsory heterosexuality, or comphet for short. If you haven't heard this term before, you're in good company because I recently learned about it myself. As it turns out, comphet is a simple word to express a complex problem faced by many non-heterosexual people. It was coined by Adrienne Rich in reference to lesbians specifically, but while the term has different shades of meaning depending on your specific experience, it has since been broadened to include anyone who's not hetero. Basically, modern society sets up the expectation that everybody should want to grow up, find a partner of the opposite sex, and have kids with them. We see it on TV, we read it in books, hear it from relatives at family gatherings when they ask about our love lives, and even have it forced on us by strangers. One time a male friend and I were eating out with some other friends, and the waitress tried to put the two of us on the same bill because she assumed we were together on no other information than that we were friends of the opposite sex. The experience scars me to this day. With all of this pressure to find a heterosexual mate, it's no wonder that many young gays and asexuals fabricate heterosexual feelings. It's human nature to want to fit in, and when you're the only person you know who's not interested in a hetero happy ending, you start to think that maybe you're the one who's wrong. This, clanmates, is comphet. When you convince yourself that you have heterosexual feelings that you actually don't because society says you should. It's deeply confusing to experience and makes it even harder for people who aren't heterosexual to realize who they really are. And I believe this experience applies to Bluefur as well. Consider this passage from Bluestar's prophecy. "You've fulfilled your promise to Snowfur," Larksong mewed softly. "You need to live your own life now, Bluefur, before you wake up and realize you're as empty as a beach husk." Is that how the old she-cat really saw life? Surely there were things to offer the clan other than kits. Bluefur was proud of what she'd done for Whitestorm, what she was doing with Frostpaw. Her apprentice was going to make a fine warrior. My life isn't empty. She started to back out of the den. Was this really how her clanmates saw her? Larksong prodded the mouse and, without looking up, rasped, "Maybe Thrushpelt has waited long enough." Bluefur scooted from the den without replying. Was Larksong telling her to take Thrushpelt as a mate? She shook her head, baffled. Here we see very clearly that while Bluefur has no interest in a mate or kits, her clanmates have other ideas about what will make her life fulfilling. And this isn't the only time she receives this advice. Rosetail looked up as Bluefur approached. I've never seen any cat look so disappointed. She was gazing at Thrushpelt, who looked lost beside the fresh kill pile. "Shut up." Bluefur flung her sparrow on the ground and lay down. "What's wrong with you?" Rosetail demanded. "I wish I had a cat following me around like that." "I don't have time for a mate." Rosetail's gaze sharpened. "You have your eye on deputyship, don't you?" Bluefur's ears burned. "So what if I do?" Rosetail shrugged. "Well, not many cats get to be deputy, so don't miss out on other things while you're waiting." When we consider scenes like this, where just about every cat who's close to Bluefur is pushing her to find a mate, it's easy to imagine that Bluefur might misinterpret feelings of admiration and friendship toward Oakhart for feelings of sexual attraction. Every cat she knows has set her up to expect those feelings, and she's never felt them before. How would she know the difference? However, after meeting Oakhart for just one night, Bluefur proceeds to sever ties with him completely. Although she thinks wistfully of him, she fairly easily resists the temptation to go see him again. This is all well and allosexual. Maybe Bluefur is just really disciplined. But then, when she meets Oakhart to tell him she's having his kits, Oakhart's immediate reaction is to offer to join ThunderClan and raise the kits with her. Bluefur wouldn't have to give up any of her ambitions. This is before it came up that the kits were in the way of her becoming deputy, and at the time she fully intended to keep them. And she could spend the rest of her life with Oakhart, which she's supposedly been pining for ever since their meeting at Four Trees. But she immediately turns down his offer to live with her in ThunderClan, and her reasons are flimsy at best. She says she doesn't want to get in the way of his ambitions. Again, this is a perfectly reasonable response for an allosexual person, or cat, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything for my theory. But at this point, Oakhart has already had the deputy position offered to him, and he turned it down freely on the basis that he wasn't ready. Bluefur knew this. Clearly he's not that invested in becoming deputy, and by all indications, he would truly have been happy joining ThunderClan. Bluefur also argues that Oakhart and the kits would never be accepted by her racist clanmates, but her basis for this is even shakier. She claims that Windflight was discriminated against for being part WindClan, but she learns this about Windflight from Oakhart during this conversation. Clearly she never noticed any mistreatment of Windflight before now. Even in Bluefur's absolute worst-case scenario, all that would happen is that Oakhart can't be a deputy, which isn't guaranteed for him anyway, and the kits might grow up with some funny looks. Weigh this against Bluefur having literally everything she's ever wanted, and her family being happy about it. There's no logical reason for Bluefur to turn Oakhart down, and Bluefur has rarely showed herself to be anything but coldly logical. Unless, deep down, despite convincing herself otherwise, Bluefur doesn't actually want Oakhart to come live at ThunderClan at all. Consider this. After the Fade to Black festivities at Four Trees the night Bluefur's kits were conceived, Bluefur is lying next to Oakhart, his contented purr rumbling in her ears. She's happy, of course, but it wasn't exactly what she expected. Even if Snowfur never bragged off-screen about how great Thistleclaw was in the nest, which I highly doubt, Bluefur has spent enough time watching other cats in love and being urged to take a mate to have high expectations for her first night with a Tom. But now, after sneaking out of camp and breaking the warrior code to be with the Tom she's head over heels for, she can't help but wonder if it was worth it. It was okay, but is okay all it was supposed to be? Is something wrong with her? She thought she had finally found the right Tom that everyone told her would come along. Thought that, in a roundabout way, she had finally had the experience of falling in love, without which everyone claimed her life would be empty. Was it too late? Was she already, how did Larksong put it, as empty as a beach husk? She shakes the thoughts from her mind and settles in for some much-needed sleep, enjoying the warmth of Oakheart's pelt at least as much as what came before. The next morning, she doesn't give the thoughts time to resurface. It was a wonderful night, everything it was supposed to be. She had just been feeling off because of guilt over breaking the warrior code. So, as much as she definitely totally loved it, she has to say goodbye. And as she does so, she feels a pang of loss as she says farewell to a cat who understood her, a cat who is fun, a strong and confident future deputy who embodies everything she wants to be. Her belief is confirmed. Of course she feels the same way about Oakheart that Snowfur felt about Thistleclaw. Why else would it hurt so much to leave? She continues to romanticize the experience after she returns home, pining after the idea of her night with Oakheart and the genuine companionship she felt with him. But when Oakheart offers to come to ThunderClan, offers a situation in which what they did that night could be a regular occurrence, Bluefur's response is an automatic refusal. She never even entertains the idea, never seems tempted. Perhaps the reason she's so against living with Oakheart is because she doesn't know if she really wants to repeat their encounter on a regular basis. Perhaps, even if she doesn't consciously realize it, she's actually trying to hold up the safe buffer of being from different clans to avoid spending another lackluster night with him, because she doesn't understand why she wouldn't want to relive what she's convinced herself was the best night of her life. That may seem like an awful lot of repressed feelings, but as a survivor of Compet myself, I can tell you it's all too easy to hide things like this from yourself. But besides blatant projection, I have another reason for championing this headcanon. There aren't nearly enough asexual characters out there. I've met so many people who have never even heard of asexuality, and at least a few of them were shocked and comforted to know there's a word for their experience. So I wanted to talk about my ace headcanon as a way of spreading awareness about this underrepresented sexuality. Aside from a general lack of awareness, asexuality is often avoided by writers because of the myth that it isn't interesting to read about or watch. A great example that really makes my blood boil is a quote from Stephen Moffat, the head writer for BBC's Sherlock, among other things. Here's part of his response to being asked if Sherlock Holmes is asexual. If he was asexual, there would be no tension in that, no fun in that. It's someone who abstains who's interesting. This is a pile of fox dung, and Bluestar's story is proof. Bluestar's prophecy would require absolutely no restructuring in terms of emotional beats or plot elements to make her unambiguously ace. A couple extra lines of internal reflection would have been plenty. Being asexual doesn't mean a character has no meaningful and interesting relationships. If anything, it frees them up to focus on other, more interesting relationships. I love a good romance as much as the next person, but quite apart from wanting to see better representation for me and my asexual clanmates, I want to see more platonic friendships and passionately career-minded main characters in books and TV. And asexual characters aren't excluded from romance at all. Some asexuals still crave a romantic bond with someone, and I think Ace Bluestar falls into this camp. She clearly longs for someone to be close to, she just seems ambivalent at best about sex. Perhaps if Bluefur had understood those feelings herself, she could have explained them to Oakheart, and the two of them could have had a long, happy, asexual romantic relationship in ThunderClan. It's pretty hard for a fictional hetero relationship to impress me, but I actually really like Oakheart, and I think he would have been more than understanding of Bluefur's feelings. So, am I saying that Bluefur has to be read as asexual? No, absolutely not. You can headcanon Bluestar however you want. Asexual, heterosexual, bi, lesbian. I'm merely offering this as one possible interpretation. There are perfectly reasonable explanations for all the evidence I've offered in this video, and it all comes down to, 1, the fact that this is a children's book, so talking about sex is a no-no, and 2, plot convenience. Why didn't Bluefur really want Oakheart to come live with her in ThunderClan? Because those kits needed to go. How else would we have gotten that sweet, sweet secret kit plot in The Prophecies Begin? So what I'm saying is that if you don't like Ace Bluestar, that's fine. It's just one of many interpretations, and yours is just as valid as mine. Read and write whatever version of her speaks to your experience and makes you happy. I'd like to thank the amazing artists for this video, Moonshadow, Mistletoe, and Pantherheart. You can find links to them in the description. Go give them some love, and consider commissioning them if you need some amazing art. And a special thank you to Samantha Hall for drawing me. I also have some fantastic fan art to share with you. This one is from Fadingriver, and I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. Also, Fadingriver has an
excellent fan fiction. You can find her on Twitter, and you should totally go read it. It's very good. It's got LGBT characters in it, and it's excellent. It's what I wish some of the canon books could have been. And I also have a lovely Pride art submission from Crowned Raven. This is my absolute favorite Warriors ship, Mothwing and Leafpool. They're perfect, and they are very gay for each other. Thank you, Crowned Raven. And finally, I have two wonderful Pride-related pieces from Elemental Cobalt. The first one is a set of Pride icons for canon Warriors characters, which are just lovely and I love them. And second are two of his gay OCs. Ravenface, the gay ThunderClan medicine cat on the left, and Badgerfang, the gay transgender Tom, who is a medicine cat of ShadowClan. I love them so much. They're so cute. Elemental Cobalt is a super cool dude, and he is also an artist who takes commissions. He did one of the Briarlights from my Briarlight video, and I fully intend on commissioning him again. He was a joy to work with. So go check out these awesome creators if you need more LGBT plus Warriors content in your life. If you have any Warriors fan art that you'd like to see featured, feel free to send it to me. You can contact me on Twitter or by email, and I would be more than happy to show off your art.
What are your Bluestar headcanons? Do you headcanon any other asexual warriors? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And until next time, happy Pride Month, and may StarClan light your path.